Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm just going to do a very easy sit down, relaxed video where I just answer some questions. So a few days ago I asked on Instagram, because I'm currently quite injured, if any of you have any questions to ask me, now would be the perfect time because I can't really do anything and I need something to keep my mind occupied. So I've got a bunch of you who replied and I'm going to answer all of your questions in this video. I likely won't be able to answer all of them, but I will try to answer the main few ones because a lot of the questions were repeated. So I'm just going to lump them all up into one big topic category and answer it that way. I think it's a lot easier. Okay, so I've got a few of you asking if I ever consider selling patterns. I do consider selling some of my patterns. However, I don't experiment enough with the patterns that I have in order for me to feel comfortable selling it. And to be honest, I've never really sold patterns, so I don't even know if I were to sell them, how much I would sell them for, if anyone would buy. Usually if I have a pattern to give, I just give it away. A lot of the times the patterns that I give away are during my crochet classes. Then those who attend my crochet classes, I sort of just give free patterns and like go through patterns with people. So if you're interested in learning something, another option would be to contact me for a class and we could sort of arrange it that way. And then what that allows me to do is teach you not just the actual pattern but the modification in case you want to change the size of the hook, the size of the yarn. All these things can be covered during my class. A few people have also asked, will you be sharing the pattern for the willow squares? And the short answer, yes indeed. So for those of you who don't know, these are the willow squares that I have been posting a lot of pictures on my Instagram. I think these are really pretty, and the reason that I've got so many is because I was experimenting. I will say though, these willow squares are not the original design. This design has been modified by me to suit the way I crochet and to suit the sort of yarn and hook that I want to use. But I will share all that information coming soon in a YouTube video, so you can stay tuned for that. I will definitely do these. I think these are so pretty. I don't know what I'm gonna do with them now though. So yeah, I've got a few comments just saying, I love your account, I love your work, good job, and things like that. So thank you very much for your kind words. It really means a lot to me because it gives me an insight into what you guys want to see, and so I can sort of steer my work in that direction, because what's the point of creating things just for it to live in the universe with no purpose? So thank you very much for all those. Another question I'm getting is, why are you bandaged up, and please take care of your bandaged limb? So it's a funny story. I was cycling and I was trying to cycle from East Coast Park all the way to Gardens by the Bay, and we were trying to do that at 10 p.m. at night, which would not usually have been an issue if not for the fact that we've all been in circuit breaker for the past 2 months. We haven't left our house, we haven't done anything, there's not that much physical activity that we can do to keep fit. Long story short, I was coming down a slope. I went over a hump, I lost balance, and before I could regain my balance, I hit the curb. So obviously that propelled me forward. I landed on my elbow and on my knee and on my 2 palms onto the ground. So they're sort of healing already. The ones on my hands are healed. It's just my elbows and my knees have taken a long time, and because it's on the elbow, I can't bend my arm, I can't wash my hair, I can't do anything basically that requires me to bend my arm. So that's why I'm bandaged up. Someone else asked, have you tried knitting? Is it true that crochet creates more intricate patterns? That is a really good question. Yes, I've tried knitting. Yes, I do knit also. I also do hold knitting classes. Although it is not my craft of choice, I much prefer crochet. So, is it true that crochet creates more intricate patterns? Yes and no. I think there is a common misunderstanding that with knit it's just a simple purl or knit stitch. However, with knit you can create very intricate designs. It's just that the stitch itself is just knit and purl, and in what permutation. For crochet, however, there is a lot more things you can do in terms of stitches, but you can achieve the same results in knitting, it's just a little bit harder. So for example, you have knit and purl, and then you have, of course, your knit togethers and the increase and decrease when it comes to knitting. But for crochet, you have all these other intricate stitches and things like that that you may or may not be able to create in knit depending on your skill level. For me personally, I feel like you can get the same results in knitting, it's just it takes a lot longer to get there, it's a lot harder to get there, and it's a little bit less, dare I say it, it's a little bit less fun. All those who knit, don't be angry with me, I'm a crochet artist, that's what I prefer, I like crochet. So knitting, yes, the short answer is yes, knitting has less stitches, but if you're talking about patterns wise, which means a series of stitches put together, knitting can create the same beautiful look as crochet. Another question that I'm getting a lot is, how long does it take me to create custom orders? And why it takes so long? That's two different questions there. Let me reply. How long it takes me to create something in general. So let's just use the willow square because it's in front of me. To do up a pattern like this takes me maybe half an hour to 45 minutes at most. But to learn to create the pattern, to test the pattern, to try different things with the pattern, to modify it, took me maybe like 2 days. So it's a little bit hard to explain or to give a definite answer how long it takes me to create something. For example, I've got a little pouch in front of me. It's a crochet pouch that I use to store some wires and cables and stuff like that. To actually do the stitching takes me about half an hour, but to plan the shape that I want, to decide on the materials, I think all in all, from the time I decided that I'm going to start this process to the time that it takes me to weave in all the ends and frog things and redo things, took me maybe about 2.5 to 3 hours. So leading to the next question, why custom orders take so long, which is on my website I put 5 to 7 days just for some leeway, but in general it takes about 5 to 7. The reason why custom orders take so long is because now I need to figure out how to modify my pattern. And for example, if you're asking for say Apple AirPods case and some other, maybe the Jabra earphones, I don't have those physical earphones, so it takes me a lot longer to sort of figure out and make like tiny molds of things for my crochet to sort of fit inside. Let me give you an example. Okay, so this is a little mold of something that I've created. This is for a pair of Sony wireless earbuds, and as you can see, I've sort of created it based on the shape and size. So someone tells me they want to crochet to custom order something, I actually figure out the length, the height, the depth, the width, and how much yarn I'm going to use, what crochet hook I'm going to use, what size to yarn hook ratio I'm going to use, and then it's a couple of trial and error before you actually receive the actual product. So by the time you receive your product, I would have created maybe 2 versions of it already. That's why it takes me a long time, because to actually do up the stitch is not difficult, but to think about it, to plan it, to draft it out, to test on the different materials, that is the one that takes a long time. Not to mention weaving in all the ends, cutting it, sewing in the buttonhole, giving it a test, blocking it before it gets to you. For those who don't know, blocking just means getting it into shape so it doesn't buckle or anything when you receive it. So including all that, which takes time, the actual making process is about 3 to 4 days, and then by the time it gets mailed out and sent to you, that's maybe 7 days. Over weekends, if my courier people don't come to my doorstep to pick it up, then maybe it's like 7 to 10 days. So that's why custom orders take so long. And this is only talking about something small. If you're talking about like a blanket, that can take up to maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even 4. Okay, I've been getting questions on where do you like to get your yarn or crochet supplies, or where are some good places in Singapore to get yarn. Right off the top of my head, I want to say Spotlight. Even though I don't have a very good experience with Spotlight, you can get very simple yarn with them. Like for example, you can get these. simple ones if you're just going to do an easy project. However, if you're looking for something more special or something more unique, like this yarn for example, you're not going to be able to find it at Spotlight. And to be honest, yarn in Singapore is not cheap. So Crochet Supplies, where I get them from, I get them online. Yarn, I get them online too. There's this really nice shop I like to visit. It's called yarnbarn.com. It's run locally in Singapore. I think it's by an expat lady, I think. But I get all my beautiful yarn there. For example, she carries a brand of yarn called Lana Grosso that has this beautiful yarn, which I know is you guys' favorite. And they've got really beautiful variegated yarns there, so you might want to go check it out on their website. Another local brand is Yarning Hearts. They are located at East Coast. Yeah, I think they're located at East Coast. So it's a local brand, which I like to shop local. And she's got lots of beautiful cotton yarn there as well, so you can go to the website and check it out. I have it all linked below. Another place would be Golden Dragon. For some reason, I always want to say Red Dragon, but no, Golden Dragon in Chinatown. Chinatown has got a lot of places that carry beautiful yarn. It's just that it's not always the cheapest. And Golden Dragon is also a good place to start with yarn tools. They sell lots of patterns there. They sell crochet hooks, bag handles if you want to attach them to your crochet bags or any of your crochet projects. They sell thread, they sell beads. It's basically a craft shop with 50% of the shop dedicated to knitting and crochet stuff. So I really like that place. It's where I get some of my things too. However, all that only makes up a very small percentage of where I personally get my yarn from. So I am very lucky that I have the ability to travel a lot, and so when I do travel, I make sure, absolute sure, to visit yarn shops and craft places where you get really beautiful artisanal made, one-of-a-kind variegated yarn that's so beautiful. You get nice cotton, you get nice wool, you get nice acrylic, and it's a little bit more special because you can say you carried it back from like Germany, for example, which was me recently, or Japan, which I also came back from Japan at the end of last year. So I got some really good yarn. As a result, I always travel with my luggage half empty so that I can bring back lots and lots of yarn. I've got a pretty specific question from someone, and she asked, how long did it take for you to learn and make your very first crochet? I'm assuming very first crochet project. I've been crocheting now for about, I want to say 8 or 9 years. I don't really remember. There wasn't a specific reason why I wanted to learn crochet. Basically, I was on YouTube one day and I came across some therapeutic art video of people doing things in a very repetitive way that creates a very therapeutic vibe. So I stumbled across that on YouTube back then, and it happened to be crochet. So I decided to look into it, and then I realized that there's a whole world out there in crochet. So on a whim, I went to Spotlight. I remember I bought my first ball of yarn, some hooks, and then I've just been crocheting since then. So I am self-taught. I did all the mistakes that any newbie designer would, not even designer, any crocheter, person who crochet does. I made all the mistakes. I did all the things wrong, and I had to sort of correct myself along the way. I remember the first thing I tried to do was a lace crochet in the scallop edge or the triangle edging, and I created only a really short piece like that, but I was so proud of it, and I tied it to my luggage, I remember, as a way to sort of mark my luggage. And that was the first thing I did. I think it took me about 2 hours maybe. I remember sitting down with it in the middle of the night thinking, okay, now I'm going to start crochet. I'm going to learn, and I'm going to be so good at it in a year's time. Well, I'm only good at it now, fast forward 8 years or so. So I spent the first year sort of practicing how to do a single crochet, double crochet, how to create chevron like crochet chevron and basic things, but I only did swatches. I never really created a full project. I was very ambitious. I wanted to create a blanket. Obviously, that didn't work out. After that, I got a little bit discouraged and I stopped crocheting for almost a full year. And then one day as I was cleaning my room, I came across my yarn and my hook and I thought, hey, I don't remember it being that bad, let me give it a try again. And then I picked it up. And maybe it's muscle memory, maybe it's the fact that I've already done it before. The second time picking it up again wasn't that difficult. From there I was hooked. No pun intended, but I was hooked and I have been crocheting ever since. Okay, I don't want this video to get too long, so I'm just going to answer one last question, and that is, what is some yarn to try for beginners? I'm assuming you're saying, can I recommend some different types of yarn for beginners? I think if you're a beginner, you always want to stick to acrylic. A good quality, thick acrylic would be a good start for you. You don't want to use something like cotton. Hold on. Okay, so you don't want to use something like cotton like this because cotton frays, and so it's difficult because cotton also has no stretch. So it's very difficult for you to start with cotton because, as you can tell, I hope you can tell, the fibers split apart because they don't grip onto each other, unlike acrylic. So acrylic like this, the yarn is quite tightly wound around each other such that it wouldn't split apart, and it's easy to work with. It's smooth on your metal crochet hook or even plastic one, and it's cheap. I think the thing to note with beginners is that you don't realize how much yarn you're going to waste. As beginners, every time you do something wrong, the tendency is to frog it and start again. But frogging yarn causes the tension to be weird. It squishes it a little bit, it's not so fluffy, it's thinner, and then it feels wrong in your hands. And when you finish your project, because there is a part of the yarn that's already been frogged and squished and now it's flatter, it doesn't look as nice, it is not as uniform. Also, something else to note is you don't want to use novelty yarn. And novelty yarn is yarn that is like this. You can tell that it's a little bit jagged, it's got a shape of its own already. You don't want to use yarn like this because it's going to be so difficult for you to see one stitch from another. You also don't want to be using tape yarn like this because if you're not familiar with your stitches, it's going to create a very uneven look and it's going to make your work look so messy. Even if your tension is right, even if your spacing is right, and if you've got that stitch down pat, it's going to look very messy. You also want to avoid jersey yarn or t-shirt yarn. I know a lot of people think that this is the easiest to work with, but it's actually not, because you can't weave in the end. If you finish this ball of yarn, there's no way for you to easily combine the two without it sticking out, or any slip knot that you create that's not tight or not perfect, it's going to show. Any sort of lumps and bumps, any uneven and irregularities in your tension is going to show. It's tough, it's stiff, it's not the easiest to pull through with your crochet hook. You're going to have to use a very big size crochet hook and work with a lot of fabric in between your hands, which causes hand fatigue a lot faster. Needless to say, avoid materials like jute like this, because man, this is going to chafe on your hands and fingers so bad. Also avoid things like cords, like really thick cords like that. They feel similar to a t-shirt yarn, especially t-shirt yarn with no stretch. They're difficult to work with, they're difficult to pull through, they don't have any stretch in them, which means you'll be pulling through a lot harder. And to be honest, these materials aren't cheap and you don't want to be wasting money on materials for projects that will never see light of day, really, to be very honest. The first few projects that you create will all go into the trash, and that is something that you need to be prepared, because before you start anything, you need to create swatches, and sometimes it's easier to just snip those swatches off and keep them on the side so that you have something to refer to. I know that was a lot of things that you should not try, but what you can try and what you should try is just regular, good old acrylic yarn. You can get these kinds. These are from Spotlight, and if you're a VIP member with Spotlight, they're always on sale, so they're really cheap. You can get a few colors, experiment with them. A good project to start with would be experiment with the granny square. If you don't know what those are, I will post a picture here, and I will be making a tutorial for that soon on this channel. So stay tuned. Okay, I think I've covered everything that I can for today. If you have more questions, feel free to leave them below or send me a message on Instagram. I'd love to reply. But for now, I don't want this video to be too long, so thank you guys for watching. I think my next video might be the willow square. I don't want to promise anything, but I definitely want to get the willow square up ASAP. So thank you guys for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.